Morning everyone. Welcome back to the next section of mathematics class. So today's first question is 1 divided by sin theta plus cos theta plus 1 divided by sin theta minus cos theta equals to 2 sin theta divided by 1 minus 2 cos square theta. Now you just write LHS and copy these two. Okay. After that, take out LCM. LCM means denominator everything. So what is denominator out here? Denominator is sin theta plus cos theta, sin theta minus cos theta. After that, this denominator and from the LCM, these two values will get cancelled. Now, what is left? Sin theta minus cos theta. Now this sin theta minus cos theta you multiply with 1. So you will get sin theta minus cos theta plus similarly sin theta minus cos theta, sin theta minus cos theta will get cancelled. Sin theta plus cos theta is left. Now sin theta plus cos theta into 1 is sin theta plus cos theta. After that, cos theta will get cancelled. Now, sin theta plus sin theta is 2 sin theta divided by sin theta plus cos theta into sin theta minus cos theta will be, just imagine, a plus b, a minus b, that is a square minus b square, which is sin square theta minus cos square theta. Now, what is the right hand side? Right hand side is 2 sin theta divided by 1 minus 2 cos square theta. Now we are getting only cos square theta. Now it means this sin square theta also means 1 minus cos square theta. Therefore, write 2 sin theta divided by, instead of sin square theta, you write 1 minus cos square theta minus cos square theta equals to 2 sin theta divided by 1. Now minus into minus is plus, 2 cos square theta, but sign will be minus, hence proved. Now next question. Similarly, you have to take out LCM. Okay. Now denominator you can write as 1. Then what is the LCM? Again LCM is 1 plus sin theta. Now 1 into 1 plus sin theta is 1 plus sin theta only. So 1 plus sin theta into 1 is 1 plus sin theta minus 1 plus sin theta, 1 plus sin theta will get cancelled. So what is left is cos square theta. Now use your brain. 1 plus sin theta minus cos square theta. Now 1 minus cos square theta. So again 1 minus cos square theta is sin square theta plus sin theta divided by 1 plus sin theta. After that, take out common. What is common? Common is sin theta. So after taking common, what is left? 1 plus sin theta divided by 1 plus sin theta. So these two will get cancelled. So sin theta is left, hence proved. Number 3. Sin theta minus 2 sin cube theta divided by 2 cos cube theta minus cos theta. Here you have to take out common. In numerator, what is common? Common is sin theta. In numerator, sin theta is common. So if you take sin theta common, what is left? 1 minus 2 sin square theta, because there is sin cube, divided by similarly cos cube theta minus cos theta. What is common? Cos theta is common. So if you take cos theta common, what is left? 2 cos square theta minus 1. Now sin theta divided by cos theta is tan theta. Sin theta divided by cos theta is tan theta. You are getting the answer. But what are you going to do this numerator and denominator? Now here either you convert this sin square theta into cos square theta, or this cos square theta into sin square theta, it's up to you. Okay, 1 minus 2 sin square theta divided by 2. Now I am converting this. Instead of cos square theta, I am writing 1 minus sin square theta minus 1. After that, numerator you copy as it is, 1 minus 2 sin square theta divided by, now 2 ones are 2 minus 2 into sin square theta is 2 sin square theta minus 1. After that, tan theta, numerator you copy as it is, 1 minus 2 sin square theta divided by, now 2 minus 1 is 1 minus 2 sin square theta. Now these two will get cancelled. So what is left? Tan theta, which is right hand side. Now next question. Again take out LCM. LCM means denominator cos A 1 plus sin A. Now cos A will get cancelled. So what is left with 1 plus sin A into 1 plus sin A is 1 plus sin A whole square plus 1 plus sin A, 1 plus sin A will get cancelled. Cos into cos is cos square A. Now 1 plus sin A whole square means A plus B whole square, which is A square plus B square plus 2AB plus cos square A divided by, denominator you copy as it is, 1 plus sin A. Now sin square plus cos square. Sin square plus cos square is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 2 sin A divided by cos A into 1 plus sin A. After that, if you take 2 common, 1 plus sin A divided by cos A into 1 plus sin A. So 1 plus sin A, 1 plus sin A will get cancel, 2 by cos A. If 1 by cos is sec, then 2 by cos is 2 sec A, hence proved. Okay, now question number 5. Cosec A divided by cosec A minus 1 plus cosec A divided by cosec A plus 1 equals to 2 sec square A. Again, you have to take out LCM. This is left hand side. You can write LHS and you can copy left hand side. Now LCM. LCM means again denominator everything. Cosec A minus 1 into cosec A plus 1. Now cosec A minus 1 will get cancelled, and from the LCM it is cosec A plus 1. You have to multiply with cosec A, so that you can write cosec A into cosec A plus 1 plus, similarly cosec A plus 1 will get cancelled. Now cosec A minus 1 into again cosec A. So you write cosec A into cosec A minus 1. Now remove the bracket. Cosec A into cosec A, cosec square A plus cosec A into 1, cosec A plus again cosec square A minus cosec A divided by cosec A minus 1 cosec A plus 1. A minus B, A plus B is A square minus B square. Now this cosec A minus and this cosec A plus will get cancelled. Now cosec square A plus cosec square A is 2 cosec square A divided by, now cosec square A minus 1, I have given the formula yesterday, which is cot square A. That's why formula is important. Learn all the formula. Okay, again 2 cosec square A means you can write 2 into 1 by sine square A divided by, again cot square A means I have given the formula which is cos square A divided by sine square A. Now 2 ones are 2 divided by sine square A into, this is called reciprocal, divided by cos square A. This and this cancel. Now 2 by cos square A. If 1 by cos square is sec square A, 2 by cos square is 2 sec square A, hence proved. Now question number 6. Sin A plus cosec A whole square plus cos A plus sec A whole square equals to 7 plus tan square A plus cot square A. Now again you write LHS. Now here you have to apply the formula of A plus B whole square. Now first you solve this part. Sin A plus cosec A whole square. Apply the formula. A square plus B square plus 2 into A into B. Similarly, now this one, A square plus B square plus 2 into A into B. Now sin square A plus, now this is very important, cosec square A and this sec square A is very important. Why this cosec square A and sec square A is important? Because what is the right hand side? Right hand side is tan square A plus cot square A. Now instead of cosec square A, if you write 1 by sin square A, you will not get the answer. So here you have to write 1 plus cot square A to get that cot square A, plus 2 sin A into, now this cosec A you can write 1 by sin A, so that these two will get cancelled. Similarly, cos square A plus, again same goes here. Instead of sec square A, if you write 1 by cos square A, you will not get the answer, because in the right hand side it is tan square A. So you have to write 1 plus tan square A plus 2 cos A into 1 by cos A. These two will get cancelled. Now this sin square A plus this cos square A, we know that sin square plus cos square is 1. 1 plus cot square A plus 2 ones are 2 plus 1 plus tan square A plus 2 ones are 2. Now 1 plus 1 2 plus 2 4 plus 1 5 plus 2 7 plus cot square A plus tan square A, hence proved. Now today's last question. Sin theta plus cos theta into tan theta plus cot theta equals to sec theta plus cosec theta. Again this is left hand side and this is right hand side. You write LHS and copy this part, it's up to you. Okay. Now here this sin theta plus cos theta you write as it is. Now tan theta means sin theta by cos theta plus cot theta means cos theta by sin theta. After that you copy as it is, sin theta plus cos theta. Now take out LCM. LCM means cos theta into sin theta. Now this is sin square theta plus cos square theta. Sin theta plus cos theta into, now sin square theta plus cos square theta is 1 divided by cos theta into sin theta. Now you have to multiply. Sin theta plus cos theta ones are sin theta plus cos theta divided by cos theta into sin theta. Now split it, means write sin theta divided by cos theta into sin theta plus cos theta divided by cos theta into sin theta. So sin theta cancel, cos theta cancel. So 1 by cos theta plus 1 by sin theta. 1 by cos theta is sec theta plus 1 by sin theta is cosec theta, hence proved. This much for today. Thank you very much. And please learn all the formula during this lockdown. We'll continue tomorrow, and tomorrow will be the last class for trigonometry. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon students. Okay, today we are going to learn about how to determine whether the reaction is oxidation or reduction. If you remember last part of mine, in that part I have explained you little bit about oxidation and reduction. Okay, so before we start today's class, I'll try to recap what we learned in our previous class. So if you remember, I gave you the word called OL in my last class, in which O stands for oxidation, I stands for increase in number, and L stands for loss of electrons. Do remember, I stands for increase in oxidation number in higher studies, but for you right now you remember simply as a number. So if increase in the number, loss of electron, which is represented by the sign minus, is oxidation, then decrease in the number, gain of electron, represented by the sign plus, will be reduction. So remember OL, you remember about oxidation. Make it opposite, you remember about reduction. So with the knowledge of this, now I am going to determine the reaction as oxidation or reduction. But usually there are two methods to determine it. So both the methods I will show you, whichever you find convenient. That way you solve it in your studies, when you study. Okay, so now look out here. There are 8 reactions I have given you out here. Now you need to identify whether this reaction is oxidation or reduction. This is reactant, the other side is product, which is segregated by the arrow sign, and this E means electron, and this is negative charge because electrons are negatively charged, isn't it? And this minus means loss. As I've said you, minus means loss. Okay, so sodium loses 1 electron and becomes Na plus. 1 loss, 1 positive charge it will acquire. 2 loss, it will acquire 2 positive charge. 3 loss, it will acquire 3 positive charge. So right now it is losing 1, so it will develop 1 positive charge. Now if you see out here, there is loss of electron in this reaction, and loss of electron means what? Oxidation. So therefore this reaction is your oxidation reaction. Now second one, if you see here in the reactant side, there is gain of electron because plus means gain, and this means no number mentioned means it is 1. So there is gain of 1 electron, and if loss means oxidation, then gain has to be reduction. So therefore the second reaction is your reduction reaction. Now in the third one, again if you see in the reactant side, there is loss of 2 electrons, and loss means oxidation. Remember the word OL. In number 4, there is gain of electron in the reactant side. So gain of electron means what? Reduction. Gain of electron means reduction. Now we go to number 5. In number 5, be careful in 5 and 6 now. In number 5, if you see properly, the electron is not in the reactant side. Instead of that, it is in the product side. Now there is a little bit confusion for some students. So to eradicate this confusion, what you do is always remember that you have to bring electron in the reactant side. Electron in the reactant side before you determine oxidation or reduction. In the first 4 example, we determined directly because electron was in the reactant side. But if it is in the product side, bring it to the reactant side, change the sign. Then you determine whether it's oxidation or reduction. Now let us see here. Plus electron is in the product side, bring it to the reactant side, change the sign. So plus becomes minus. And minus in the reactant side means loss. And loss means oxidation. So therefore it is an oxidation reaction. In this case, again electron is in the product side. Don't determine whether oxidation or reduction directly right now. First bring it to the reactant side. So when you bring minus 2 electron to the reactant side, it becomes plus. And if minus means loss, loss means oxidation, then if this comes this side become plus, and plus means gain, gain means what? Reduction. So this becomes your reduction. So do remember 2 conditions here. Always determine oxidation reduction, okay, if the electron is in the reactant side. But if it is in the product side, bring it to the reactant side, change the sign. After that, you say whether it's oxidation or reduction with the help of the sign. Now, in 7 and 8, a big confusion. There is no electron at all. There is no electron in the reactant side, as well as there is no electron in the product side. Now the question arises how to determine whether it's oxidation or reduction in the 7 and 8. So there we take the help of I, that is increase in number or decrease in number. Now look out here. Here is plus 3, here is plus 2. That means from plus 3 to plus 2, is there increase in the number? Plus 3 to plus 2 or decrease in the number? So I guess it is decrease in the number. And if increase means oxidation, then decrease has to be what? Reduction. Similarly in number 8, there is no electron again. So you have to use increase decrease concept here. So again, if you see plus 2 to plus 4, there is increase in the number. 2 to 4 is increase in the number. So increase means what again? Oxidation. So this is how we determine oxidation reduction by one method. I repeat again. So if the electron is in the reactant side, determine oxidation reduction directly with the help of sign. If it is in the product side, what you have to do? First bring the electron in the reactant side, change the sign, then you say. But if there is no electron at all, we are going to say with the help of the charge, okay, by increase and decrease concept in oil part. This is one method. Now then we are going to go to the next method, which is very easier than the first method. Okay, maximum you learn this way, but I am going to teach you the second method now. Student gets confused. Sometimes the electron is in the reactant side, sometimes the electron is in the product side. So much of hodgepodge in the mind of students. So to make it easy for you now, forget about everything. Just remember increase decrease concept. Whether there is electron or not, just go with increase decrease. Okay, now let us see here. For there is electron, I am not going to see that now. Sodium, there is no charge. If there is no charge, put 0 on the head. If there is no charge, what to put on the head? 0. Now compare the value 0 to plus 1. Is increase or decrease? Obviously it is increase. 0 to plus 1 is increase, and increase stands for oxidation. Now again here there is no charge, put 0. Now 0 to minus 1 is what? Decrease, and decrease means reduction. Again no charge, put 0 here. 0 to plus 2 is what? Increase. Increase means oxidation. Again no charge is here, put 0. 0 to minus 2 is what? Decrease. Decrease means reduction. Again here is no charge, put 0. 0 to plus 3 is what? Increase. Increase means oxidation. Again here is no charge, put 0. Plus 2 to 0 is decrease, and decrease means reduction. Again, okay, in this case both has charge, so no need to put 0. So 3 to 2 is what? Decrease. Decrease means reduction. Here if you see 2 to 4 is what? Increase. Increase means oxidation. In the last one, this has charge, that is minus 2, but sulfur does not have any charge, so put 0 again. Now minus 2 to 0 is increase or decrease? Increase. So increase means again what? Oxidation, which is very simple for weaker students to remember, because with the help of electron they get usually confused. Sometime in the reactant side, sometime in the product side, many students get confused. So from now on, do remember whether the electron is in the reactant side or right hand side, no need to see that. Just see the, compare the charge. Increase in the number, right? Oxidation. Decrease in the number, right? Reduction. But do remember, if there is no charge, you have to put 0 and you have to compare. So this is one part, that is how to find oxidation and reduction. Okay. Now we are going to go with a new term which is there in the chapter called periodic table, and the topic of that chapter is this one called ionization potential, abbreviated as IP, or ionization energy, abbreviated as IE. Okay, I like to give you one more name of this which is not there in the book. Mostly the CBSE student use that, and that is ionization enthalpy. So whether it's ionization potential, ionization energy, or ionization enthalpy, all three mean same. Abbreviation for ionization potential is capital I and P. For ionization energy is capital I and E. Now, to understand this topic, I've given you one example out here. So let us try to understand that example first. Sodium symbol is Na, and its atomic number is 11. Okay. Now, if you have to make its rough electronic configuration, it will be 281. 11 means 281. So I have made a rough atomic structure of sodium here. This is the nucleus of sodium, and in the first cell it has 2, second cell it has 8, and in the third cell it has 1, the outermost electron. Now, in order to become octet, sodium has to lose one electron, but it will not lose by himself. The other element will come to do so. Suppose I am the other element who wants to remove electron from sodium. Done? So I am coming nearby to remove electron from what? Sodium. But this nucleus, which is positively charged, will attract this electron towards itself because opposite pole attract. Therefore, if I have to remove this electron from sodium, I have to put the force which will overcome the attractive force of the nucleus. And that energy which I put in to remove the outermost electron, okay, from the element like sodium, that energy which I put is called ionization potential. And you can see in this sodium there is no charge, no plus, no minus. It is neutral, isolated atom. Neutral single atom it is. So whatever energy I put in to remove the outermost electron from the neutral isolated atom is called ionization potential or ionization energy. So it can lose one electron. After the one electron is removed from sodium, it will acquire positive charge. So one electron removed, one positive charge, two electron removed, two positive charge. For the time being, one electron has been removed, so one positive charge will be acquired. And you know that ion having positive charge is called cation. So due to ionization potential, usually cations are formed. Okay, due to ionization potential, what is formed? Cations are formed. So now let us see the concrete definition of ionization potential. It is defined as the energy required, it is defined as the energy required to remove the electron from the outermost shell of a neutral isolated atom. And due to ionization potential, usually cations are formed. Now let us see the value of this ionization potential in case of metals and non-metals and in case of noble gases. Now, in my last part, I have said you metals I compare as a good person. They are generous. So as good person has big heart, metal also has big atomic size. So since the size of metal is bigger, therefore the distance between the nucleus and outermost electron is more. As a result, the force of attraction between them is less. Therefore, if any other element wants to remove electron from metal, they have to put less energy. As a result, energy required is less to remove electron. As a result, their ionization potential, ionization and your energy will be less. Now we go to the non-metal. In case of non-metal, I compare it with bad person, small heart, so small size. In case of non-metal, since the atomic size of non-metal is smaller, therefore the distance between nucleus and outermost electron is less. As a result, the force of attraction between them is more. Due to which, if you want to remove this electron, if any other element wants to remove this electron from non-metal, they have to put more energy. As a result, more energy, more ionization potential or more ionization energy they have. Now we go to noble gas. In case of noble gas, they have stable electronic configuration as I said in my previous class. So stable electronic configuration means duplet or octet. They have 2 in the first shell or 8 in the last shell. So since they are already stable, they will never lose electron, nor gain electron or nor share. As a result, if you want to remove electron from noble gas by hook and crook, you need to put lots of energy. As a result, its IP is highest. Its electron ionization potential value is highest. And do remember now, from now on, metal has less IP, more than non-metal, non-metal has more IP, and more than non-metal, noble gas has the highest IP. And inside noble gas, there are so many members, like helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon are the members. And now, among these all, again, who has the highest? Helium. Because you have learned, as we move down the group in the periodic table, the atomic size increases. So since the size of helium is lesser as compared to the other noble gases, therefore it will have the highest ionization potential. After that neon, after that argon, after that krypton, after that xenon, after that radon. After noble gas is over, the next high IP is of halogen group. That is group 17, in which one of the element is fluorine. Okay, now let us see some question answer from here. Metal has less ionization potential, explain. Suppose this reasoning question comes, how to handle it. Don't mug, take the help of the picture. It becomes very easy for you to understand. Metal has less IP. Now you can see from here. Metal has larger atomic size, due to which the distance between nucleus and outermost electron is more. As a result, the force of attraction between them is less. As a result, when less energy will be required to remove electron from metal, from the outermost shell. So less energy required means less IP. So what will be the answer then? Metal atomic size is larger, due to which the force of attraction between nucleus and outermost electron will be less. As a result, less energy will be required to remove electron. Hence, it will have less IP or less ionization energy. Non-metal has more ionization potential. Explain. You can see the picture again. In case of non-metal, the atomic size is small. Therefore, the distance between nucleus and outermost electron is less and the force of attraction is more. As a result, more energy will be required to remove electron from the outermost shell of it, and more energy means more ionization potential it will have. So to remember, non-metal have smaller atomic size, due to which the force of attraction between the nucleus and outermost electron will be more. As a result, more energy will be required to remove electron from it. Hence, it will have more IP or ionization potential. Now the third question says, noble gas has highest ionization potential. Explain. You have to start the answer this way. In case of noble gas, they have stable electronic configuration, that is duplet or octet. As a result, they are stable element. Hence, they require the highest amount of energy to remove electron from them. As a result, they have highest ionization potential. Now let us go with some objective question of your ICSE. Name the group in the periodic table which has the highest ionization potential. And as I said, who has the highest? Noble gas. And they belong to which group? Group 18 or group 0. So the answer is group 18 or group 0. Okay? But you may be surprised in my question. Nicely you see. Somewhere here I have written both P and T with capital letters. I started with the capital letters, but in between I have written in by the capital letters. Do remember, wherever you write periodic table, whether from in the start or at the end or in the middle, P and T should be always capital. We should not write small letter P or T. Periodic table, when you write, P, T should be always capital. Now we go to the next question. Name the element which has the highest ionization potential. Did I ask you the group or element now? Element. Highest is group 18, but inside that group 18, which element has the highest? Helium. So the answer will be helium for that. Now let us see some MCQ question, multiple choice question of your ICSE. Among the following, which has highest IP or IE, ionization potential or ionization energy? So I have given you different 3 options. Let's go with the first one. As you know, who has the highest? Noble gas. And you will seek for helium, but there is no helium. So you can take it in neon, because after all, it is also a noble gas. Now in the second options, again, if you see, you seek for noble gas. Okay, but there is no helium, no neon, so you'll take it in argon, because noble gas has the highest. Now in the last one, there is no noble gas at all. Now you may say there should be one more extra option called none of this. I like to say you, if there is no noble gas, then who will have the highest? Halogen group, that is group 17. So the answer will be fluorine. So this is how I'm going to end about ionization potential. So what is ionization potential? It is the amount of energy required to remove the electron from the outermost shell of an atom. Okay, and due to that, cations are formed. So one objective question to you again. Okay, listen carefully. The energy released, okay, the energy released to form cation is called dash. So the answer will be ionization potential or ionization energy. And do remember, metal has less IP, non-metal has more, and noble gas has the highest. Now we go to the next important topic of the same chapter called periodic table. Okay, I'm trying to give you some concept, and here we are going to learn about is electron affinity, abbreviated as EA, and this is how we know this name in ICSE, electron affinity. But the same name in CBSE students, they say electron gain enthalpy. So whether you say electron gain enthalpy or electron affinity, both means same actually. Now what is electron affinity? Many, they mark the definitions. Okay, they mark the definition literally. But I like to request you to go through the word. Go through the word. It's a new word to you, maybe, for some of you. What is electron affinity? Now listen to the meaning. Electron, you know what is that? Affinity means affection, love. So electron affinity means love towards electron. Now, in your common sense, electron affinity, electron means what? Electron affinity means love. So love towards electron. Who does not love electron at all? Metal. That's why they want to lose. Who loves it more? Non-metal. That's why they gain. But who doesn't have any affection for it? noble gas. Reason? They are already stable. Metal wants to lose to become octet, non-metal wants to gain to become octet, but noble gas are already octet, so they have zero affinity for electron. So do remember, I have not explained you properly, but I'll be explaining you later on. Right now I'm giving you a rough idea how to remember this. Electron affinity means love towards electron, and who does not have that? Metal, that's why they lose. So metal has the low value of electron affinity. Who loves it more? Your non-metal, so they have more affinity for electrons, so electron affinity is more for non-metal. And for whom electron affinity is totally zero? Noble gas, because they are stable, they don't want to gain. Now I'm coming back to the main part of it, and I'll explain you in detail. So to explain electron affinity, I have taken the help of chlorine. Okay, it is single, no charge, so it's neutral again, single isolated atom. So chlorine is a neutral isolated atom here as one of the example of mine, whose atomic number is 17. So if I make a rough atomic structure of it, then the configuration of 17 will be 2, 8, 7. So chlorine has 7 electron in the outermost shell, means it is non-metal. Therefore, it will gain 1 electron to become octet. But who will gain the electron? Chlorine will gain the electron, or nucleus will try to do so? Answer is nucleus. So the nucleus will try to pull one more electron. The nucleus will try to pull one more electron towards the outermost shell, so that chlorine becomes octet. But as it tries to attract electron, okay, this already present 17 electrons will try to repel it. Reason? Nucleus is positive charge, so it wants to attract one more electron to become octet. But this 17 electron which is already present, they are negatively charged. So between negative and negative there will be repulsion. Positive, negative, there will be attraction. So the nucleus will try to attract one more electron to become octet. Whereas already present 17 electron which also are negatively charged, they will try to repel this electron. As a result, this nucleus, whenever it pulls the electron to make itself octet, okay, to make chlorine octet, it releases some energy. It releases some energy, and that energy released during the addition of an electron is called electron affinity. So what will be the definition then? Define electron affinity. It is the amount of energy released when an electron is added to the outermost shell of a neutral isolated atom. And when electron is added, it will develop negative charge. So due to electron affinity, anions are formed. So one of the major difference between ionization potential and electron affinity is that is the amount of energy required to remove the electron from the outermost shell, and this is the energy released when an electron is added to the outermost shell. Next point, due to ionization potential, cations are formed, and due to electron affinity, anions are formed. Now, I've given you one relationship out here. Nuclear charge and atomic size is inversely proportional. That means if the size is bigger, nuclear charge will be less. If the size is bigger, the nuclear charge will be what? More. Now, what is nuclear charge first? Nuclear charge is the charge carried by the nucleus to pull the electrons, okay? The electrons are present in the cell, so the nucleus will try to pull the electron towards itself, and that charge carried by the nucleus is called nuclear charge, which depends upon the number of proton. Because inside nucleus there are two particles, one is neutron, one is proton. But as you know, neutron is neutral, it has nothing to do, but proton is positively charged, and that's why nucleus is positively charged. So the charge carried by the nucleus is called nuclear charge, and that depends upon number of proton. More the number of proton, more will be the nuclear charge. So more the nuclear charge, less the atomic size, less the nuclear charge, more the atomic size. Now you know metal atomic size is larger. As a result, nuclear charge will be less. So since the nuclear charge is less, energy release will be also less from it, therefore electron affinity is less for it. It does not attract electron towards itself because it hates electrons, so it tries to give rather than gaining, so electron affinity for it is less. Now, non-metal, atomic size is small. So since the atomic size of non-metal is small, so therefore its nuclear charge is more. Nuclear charge more means it will try to pull more electron towards itself. As a result, the energy release will be more, therefore it will have high value of electron affinity. Noble gas, since they have stable configuration, that is duplet octet, therefore they neither gain electron nor share, nor lose. Therefore, electron affinity for them is 0. So whether it's helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, all of their electron affinity value is 0. That is group 18 electron affinity value is 0 because they are stable, so they never gain electrons. So electron love for them is 0. Now conclusion about these two terms. Do remember metal, non-metal, noble gas. IP is less for metal, more for non-metal, and highest for noble gas, as I explained you. Now this is the conclusion to be remembered. Electron affinity, love towards electron is very less for metal. Love towards electron is more for non-metal, and 0 for noble gas. Okay. Now we come to the last topic of today's, and that is electron affinity. Okay, before I go to this topic, remember two objective question again here. Name the group in the periodic table which has 0 electron affinity. Answer is group 18. If they ask you the element, you can give any noble gases. All have electron affinity value 0. Now we go to the next term called electronegativity. Okay, to explain you this, I would like to give you one example. This is your hydrogen, this is your chlorine. Hydrogen has 1 electron in the outermost shell, whereas chlorine 17, so 2, 8, 7, so it has 7 electron in the outermost shell. Now, hydrogen requires 1 more electron to become duplet, whereas chlorine requires 1 more electron to become octet. As a result, they will share their electrons. Okay, because both are non-metals. Hydrogen is also non-metal, chlorine is also non-metal. So both will share their electrons in order to become stable. So when they share the electron, hydrogen becomes duplet and chlorine becomes octet. But in this case, do remember, chlorine is more electronegative than hydrogen. As a result, it will pull the electron of hydrogen towards itself. Chlorine is more electronegative and will pull the electron of hydrogen towards itself. And this potential tendency shown by this chlorine is called electronegativity. So what is electronegativity? Electronegativity, it is the tendency, it is the potential of an element to attract the shared pair of electron towards itself. I repeat one more time. It is the tendency to attract the shared pair of electron towards itself, and that is termed as what? Electronegativity. And who loves electron? They will attract. So it's obviously non-metals. They love electron, they attract, so therefore they have the high value of electron affinity, whereas non-metal has the least. Okay. Now how I came to know which is more electronegative, hydrogen or chlorine? Because in the periodic table, if you have learned in school, when you go from left to right, the size decreases. When you go from left to right, the size decreases. So chlorine has smaller size. Therefore, it has more affinity towards electron. As a result, it attracts electron from hydrogen. So therefore, chlorine shows more electronegativity than hydrogen, and it pulls the electron of hydrogen towards itself. So in today's part, students, we learn about how to find oxidation, how to determine oxidation and reduction. Okay, with the help of two methods. Then we learn what is ionization potential and metal, non-metal, and noble gas, who has the highest, lowest, like that. Then electron affinity and the comparison between electron affinity and ionization potential. One is the energy required to remove the electron. One is the energy released when an electron is added. Ionization potential forms cation and your electron affinity forms anion. After that, I given you a little bit about electronegativity today. So when I come in my next class, I am going to explain the periodic properties to you, in which I have already discussed 3 out here today. So that may be the last part of the chapter. I cannot teach all the chapter in detail right now. So I am giving you the importance of periodic table chapter indirectly. So tomorrow, if I come, I am going to teach you the brief part of periodic properties of the elements in the periodic table. Okay? After that, we'll conclude this chapter. Thank you very much for today. Stay home, be safe. Take care. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear children. Hope you all are fine. Today I am going to start with characteristic feature of cell division. Now in characteristic feature of cell division, what are the point do you have to write in your question? Okay, how you have to write the answer to the question that is being asked, because in some of the book, bulky, you are not able to extract the point. So like interphase, in interphase, it is followed by G1, S and G2. Exactly what happens in G1? RNA and proteins are synthesized. And that takes roughly around 10 hours. For the complete interphase to take place, it takes place around 18 to 20 hours. Whole cell division gets over by 22 hours. So 18 to 20 hours, interphase only takes it. In that, G1 takes 10 hours, roughly 10 to 12 hours. In S phase, more DNA is synthesized and daughter cells gets formed, daughter chromosomes get formed. In G2, more RNA and protein are synthesized, that will take around 3 hours. After the interphase is over, now, when during the synthesis phase, more DNA when it is getting synthesized, the cells may remain either in the resting phase. So before to that, in G1, when the RNA and protein are getting synthesized, some of the event may be restricted, whether the cell has to go under division or not. If the cell undergoes division, the process will be carried on. If in the G1, if the process is restricted or stopped, then it goes under resting stage. After to that, if it is continued, then what will carry on? Mitosis division, that is the division of the thread, that is called as karyokinesis, nucleus division. Now in the nucleus division, 4 phases comes across. Like what are they? Prophase. When I say pro, then first phase. Now during the first phase, what exactly is going to happen? Yesterday we have discussed in the diagrammatic, by diagram to come to know that what is prophase. Here actually what will happen? Centrioles start moving and reach to opposite pole. Like take for example, here interphase, you see in the interphase, you see the centrosome, chromatin and nucleolus. Now in the prophase, what has happened? The centriole are starting to move towards the pole. This is the pole. This is the chromosome, and when they start moving, just started beginning, then you call it as early prophase. The next one, late prophase. Here what has happened? The centromere has moved, already reached to the pole. But how you are going to write? Then you see, chromosome gets duplicated and sister chromatids attach at the centromere. Spindle fibers appear between the daughter centriole. So you see that here spindle fibers are getting formed between the daughter centriole. This is the centriole, and here the spindle fibers are getting formed. Now nuclear membrane and nucleolus disappears. In the diagram, in the interphase, you see nucleolus is there and the nuclear membrane is also there. But here you see in the late prophase what is happening? This nuclear membrane, which is in the early prophase, you can see it is distinct. But here you see it is dotted, meaning it is slowly disappearing. Nucleolus and nuclear membrane disappear. So these are some of the characteristic features that you observe during the prophase. And the last one, chromosomes start moving to the equator. And here I have written LP. LP means the late prophase. Late prophase means slowly this chromosome structure, when they are moving towards the equator. Equator means this middle line is called the equator. Now, after that comes metaphase. Meta means after prophase. So in metaphase, what is going to happen? Centromere are to the equator. Now you see in the metaphase, this is the centromere, this is the centromere, this is the centromere, this is the centromere. They are to the equator. Chromatids are all, chromosomes are all lined up in the equator. So centromere are to the equator, chromosome remain at the equatorial plane. That means they are at the equator. Spindle fiber passes through the centromere. That means all the spindle fibers has to pass through the centromere. That is the observation that is seen in the metaphase. So characteristic feature of metaphase will be these three. Now, after the metaphase, what is going to happen? Anaphase. Ana means, what do you mean by ana? Ana means back. So in anaphase, what are the characteristic feature? Now you see, the centromere that are lying in the equator, slowly what has happened? They are now directed towards the pole, and chromatids are to the equator. That means just the opposite. They are going towards the pole. So how you are going to write? Sister chromatid. Now when I say sister chromatid, then you have to understand this chromatid which has got separated, and then they are moving. When they got separated, they are moving towards the pole. These chromatid which are homologous, which are of same type, they are called as sister chromatid. They are moving towards the pole. So sister chromatids are drawn apart towards pole by shortening of spindle fiber. So yesterday I have shown you that how the spindle fibers get shortened up. That means you see that due to unequal pulling, it may result in shortening of spindle fiber. Number 2, a furrow starts in the cell membrane at the middle in the late anaphase. That means here now you see in anaphase, now when the anaphase is about to get over, then that is called as late. So in the late, what will happen? This furrow like a depression will get formed, and more or less these chromatid structures, when they are about to reach the pole, they have not reached to the pole, but they are about to reach to the pole. By this diagram you come to know that it is late anaphase. But as this explanation is totally based on ICSE syllabus. So sometimes what happens in some of the book, early late is mentioned. That is why I have written out here early and late. But if you see the chromatid structures are towards the pole, then you write it anaphase. If it is in the middle, write metaphase. And if these chromatid structures are moving nearby to the equator, then it is late prophase. Now, you come to the last part of it, that is telophase. Telo means end. So in telophase, by looking at the diagram, what sentence you are going to write, what are the points that you are going to write. If the question will come, write the characteristic feature of telophase. Then each chromatin threads lengthens, nuclear membrane appears. Now you see that here what has happened, you will find a depression has got formed, a furrow like structure gets formed. Then after that, each of this chromosome that has come to this region, to the pole, slowly what will happen? The cell membrane, this nuclear membrane will also get formed. The chromosome structure, the chromatid structure will get lengthened up. That means they will join, and then they will form a chromatin fiber. Nucleolus appears in each daughter cell. After the completion of late telophase, then what also you will observe? The nucleolus again reappears. Nucleolus and nuclear membrane disappears in the late prophase. That is, in the prophase it disappears. In the telophase, again it appears. So that is an indication of telophase. After that, what is going to happen? This is mitosis. That means thread division, nucleus division. After the nucleus division is over, then what is going to take place? Cytokinesis. That means it is the division of the cytoplasm. So during the division of the cytoplasm, what will happen? A constriction will get formed, a furrow-like structure will get formed, further depression will get formed, and finally the cell separates into two, which is unlike like that of the parents. That means they are identical in nature. Now let's try to see that this mitosis, when it is taking place in the growth cell, vegetative cell, then in the plant and in the animal, whether it is same or whether it is different, then you see basically it is more or less same. But only thing is that you have already come across in class 7, 8 and 9 that the animal cell contains centrosome, centromere, centriole, but in the plant you will not find centrosome. Then the question comes, how do this spindle fiber get formed? Or all are same. Now you try to compare this one. The difference between animal and plant mitosis. Now animal and plant mitosis, how you can differentiate by the diagram. First of all, easy identification, easy way to identify whether it is a plant or an animal mitosis is going on. Sometimes the question may be asked like, identify the diagram, plant cell or animal cell. Then you can easily identify that in animal cell, it has cell membrane. Here what do you find? You find additional structure. You should not get mistaken that this is circular and this is somewhat rectangular in nature. If you find it is a single layer, it is a double layer. Here you see double layer, outside layer is cell wall, inside layer is cell membrane. You have the nucleus and you have the chromatin, thin thread-like structure, that is the chromatin, then the nucleus. What is making the difference? Cell wall is making the difference. Now, in the interphase state in animals, in animal and plant cell, both of them are same. In the prophase, also you will come across that here what do you find? Here you find the centrosome is there, centriole are there. Here you will not find centrosome. Now here what is happening? Slowly these chromatin fibers are converting into chromatid. It is becoming short and thick. When it is becoming short and thick, then you call it as chromatid. In next class, I will be telling you regarding how do these chromatids become short and thick and why they are called as sister chromatid. But here you try to see that these chromatid structures now in the next part of the plant mitosis, that is late prophase, what do you find? The nuclear membrane disappearing. Nucleolus also disappears. The point for each of the characteristic for plant and animal will be the same. Now, in the metaphase, what do you find? You will find all these centromeres are towards the center. Spindle fibers has got formed. Now the question comes out here that how do these spindle fiber got formed? Here in the animal cell, in the animal mitosis, I told that the spindle fibers has been formed from the from the esters, okay, from the esters. But here, from where they have got formed, then you have to understand they have formed from the nuclear membrane, they have formed from the nucleoplasm. Now, next part. Now you see that in the anaphase also you will find the chromatid structure, they are towards the pole. They are going towards the pole. Okay? Either you take this side as pole and the middle part as equator. Here in this diagram I have taken this side as pole. So what is happening out here? They are going towards the pole. So this is anaphase. Similarly, now after reaching to the pole, after anaphase is telophase. So what is happening out here? In the anaphase, what has happened? Again the nuclear membrane has appeared. This nuclear membrane has appeared. Nucleolus will also appear. That is early and late. When it is late, then it is early telophase and late telophase. The nucleolus will appear. After this telophase, after this nucleolus getting appeared, then what do you find in between? In the equatorial plane, you will find the equatorial cell plate. You also call it as equatorial plate, or you also call it as cell plate. Whereas in animal cell, what has happened? There is no plate. What is getting formed out here? Furrow is getting formed, cleavage is getting formed. Here what will get formed? Equatorial plate will get formed, or you also call it as cell plate. Now due to this is the clear identification of the plant mitosis and animal mitosis and plant mitosis. Now here finally what will happen? Due to occurrence of this cell plate, this cell is going to divide into two daughter cells. So in the difference between the animal mitosis and plant mitosis is that basically everything is same. Only thing is that centrosome is not there. In the telophase part or in the cytokinesis division, cell plate gets formed. This is the difference. Now, let's move on to the next part. That means when we have discussed yesterday that there are two types of cell division. One is mitosis, another one is meiosis. Mitosis we have already come across. Where does it take place? What are the process? Difference between plant mitosis and animal mitosis. Now come to the next part, that is meiosis. What is meiosis? Now meiosis, it is a type of division of the chromosome in which it reduces the chromosome into half. The chromosome number gets reduced to half. That is why it is called a which division? Reductional division. Okay, the chromosome number gets reduced to half. Now let's take for in the example here I have taken 2n. What do you mean by 2n? 2n means diploid. So when I say diploid, you have to understand it contains 46 number of chromosome. Human beings are known by 46 number of chromosome. So here this 46 number of chromosome gets reduced to half. It becomes 23, it becomes 23. That means this 2n becomes n, n, n. Okay, n plus n is 2n. Now, this reduction, that is when the reduction has taken place, after that, what will happen? These two cells that has got formed, that has reduced to half, again will go under mitotic division. And when it goes under mitotic division, we call it as equational division. That means this 23 number of cell will divide into two number of cell, that is 23 and 23. It is maintaining its number. Okay, 23 will remain 23 only, 23 will remain 20. But from one cell, how many cells you are getting? You are getting 4 cells. Whereas in mitosis, from one cell you got 2 cells. So 4 cells get formed from a single reproductive cell. So this is meiosis. So here the chromosome number gets reduced to half. Now where does this meiosis takes place? Okay, where does this meiosis takes place? Then meiosis takes place, there are so many terminology. It takes place in gonad, reproductive cell, gametes, or sex cell. They all are the different terminology. Now, all this terminology, now you see that in the plant and in the animal, you have the names of these reproductive cells are different. So in the male, this is the sign of male. So in the male, where is this meiosis going to take place? Then it takes place in the pollen grain. And if I say pollen grains, where it is produced, then pollen grains are produced from anther. Okay, they are produced from anther. So what is the name of the reproductive cell? Pollen grain. What is the organ for production? Anther. Then after that, in the plant, you see the female reproductive part. Okay, in the female reproductive part, that is the gynoecium. What is the reproductive cell? It is the ovule. So the ovule gets produced from the ovary. So ovary is the female reproductive part, and that belongs to the gynoecium. Similarly, in the animal, the name of the reproductive cell is sperm, and in the female, the reproductive cell of the female is called as ova, or you call it as ovum. Now, this meiosis, how it is going to take place? Then, meiosis, you see, first of all, interphase. The cell has to prepare, preparatory phase. First, meiosis or meiotic 1. In the meiotic 1, it is followed by prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. You are all acquainted with the term, what is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. The same in the prophase, whatever the characteristic feature I have discussed before, same goes on. Metaphase, they line up in the equator. Anaphase, they go back. Telophase, nuclear membrane, nucleolus appears. Same thing happens. But what is the peculiar thing about this prophase 1 is that there are number of changes of the chromatid structure that takes place in prophase 1. This, as per ICSE syllabus, the stages of meiosis are not required, but you need to have a fair idea regarding that the first part of this prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, this meiotic 1 division is a reductional division. Here, the chromosome number, 46 number of chromosome is getting reduced to 23 and 23. That means in order to reduce to 23, this first meiotic division takes place. Then, this second part of the meiotic division, which I have written mitotic division, in this case, again, what will happen? Again the chromatin that has got lengthen up, thin, again what do? They become thick. Again, they line up in the equator. Again, they go back. Again, they lengthen it, they join it, and again the chromosome gets formed, forming into again 4 number of cells, and each cells that has got formed from the meiotic division will be different from one another. All these 4 cells will be different from one another. They are different from one another. Whereas if I take in case of mitotic division, 46 number of chromosome, okay, diploid cells. Now these 2 cells, 46, this will be also 46. Suppose, say for example, if I take another cell like this type of cell, there are more than 200 different types of cells in human body, and all of them, they have all of the division takes place by this mitosis. But Now in this cell you see the cell is dividing alike, like the parents only. This cell round in shape, spherical in shape, divided into spherical only. This cell divided, which is rectangular, that means they are identical to their parents. Suppose, say for example, if I take like this type of cells, okay, then this cell will divide unlike like that of the parents. Take for example, if I take bone cell, osteocyte, okay, osteocyte is the name of a bone cell. So when this cell will also divide, it will divide exactly like that of the parent. So when they are dividing under the process of mitosis. All of them will be identical in nature. They look like the parent only. Okay, this is the parent cell, this is the parent cell, and this is the daughter cells. They look alike. But in meiosis, all the 4 cells that has got formed will be different in one another. Why they become different with one another? How the cells are different from one another? Why they are different? Then we will be discussing in tomorrow class. Thank you, all of you. Have a good day. Stay safe. Thank you.